My name is Stella. I'm 28. And if there's one thing I've always known, it's my own worth. I've never been the kind of woman who waits for permission. I see what I want. I calculate the path and I take it. Direct, unapologetic. Some people call it demanding. I call it knowing the value of my own happiness. For 2 years, my happiness had a name, Owen. He was stable, kind, and worked as a financial analyst downtown. He dealt in certainties, in risks and returns, which I found comforting. He was the solid ground beneath my feet, the quiet harbor where I could dock my ambitions. We lived in his condo in Chicago, a beautiful space with floor-to-ceiling windows that he paid for mostly. It was a perfect arrangement. He provided the foundation, and I provided the sparkle. Everything was smooth, predictable, until it wasn't. The change didn't happen overnight. It was a slow drip, a quiet poisoning that came through the glowing screen of my phone each night. While Owen read his novels, his mind lost in fictional worlds, mine was diving headfirst into a reality that felt more real than my own. Instagram. It was an endless gallery of women who weren't just living, they were curated. Their bodies were sculpted masterpieces. Curves that defied gravity's skin, that looked like liquid silk. They radiated a specific kind of power, a confidence that seemed to come from being physically flawless. I'm not unattractive. I have a good figure, work out 3 times a week. But good started to feel like an insult. Good is what you settle for. When you see what's possible, settling for average feels like giving up. The idea began as a whisper, a little enhancement. Then it grew into a roar. The procedure was called a Brazilian butt lift. The before and after photos were a revelation. It wasn't just about a bigger behind, it was about proportion, about creating that impossible hourglass shape. It was art. I spent weeks researching my tablet, a shrine to clinics in Miami and Beverly Hills. I found the one. The testimonials were from real women, talking about how the surgery didn't just change their bodies, but their entire lives. Their careers took off. They found better partners. They were finally seen. The price tag was $15,000. It sounds like a lot, I know. But it was a permanent investment. An asset. Owen spent more than that on his car, a depreciating piece of metal. This was an investment in me. I chose a Monday night to have the conversation. He was at the kitchen island scrolling through market reports on his laptop. The picture of stability. I sat across from him, my own tablet glowing with possibility. Owen, we need to talk about something important. He looked up, his brow furrowed with that gentle concern he always had. What's going on? I didn't ease into it. I've never seen the point. I turned the screen towards him, showing him the gallery of transformed women. I've made a decision. This is really important to me. His eyes scanned the images. I watched his expression shift from curiosity to confusion, then to something else. Disapproval. These are surgical photos, Stella. Brazilian butt lifts, I said, my voice firm. I've researched this clinic for weeks. Board-certified surgeons, incredible reviews. I'm going to do it. He put down his pen and leaned back, crossing his arms. The posture of a man building a wall. That's major surgery, I know. The recovery is manageable. And the results? Oh, and look at them. This will change how I feel about myself. I've never wanted anything more. He was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the screen. Then he asked the question I knew was coming. How much does something like this cost? $15,000. I said it before he could flinch. I know it's a lot, but think of it as an investment. In my confidence, in my future. Wouldn't you want me to be happy? He finally looked at me, and his eyes were full of a sad, frustrating tenderness. You don't need surgery to be confident, Stella. You're already beautiful. The automatic response. The line every man is programmed to say. That's sweet, I said, my patience thinning. But this isn't about you thinking I'm beautiful. This is about how I feel. And when I see this, I see a version of myself that is powerful, unstoppable. I leaned in. We can afford this. The question is whether you want to support something that will fundamentally change my life for the better. I could see the gears turning in his analytical mind. He was weighing the risks, the costs. He wasn't hearing the need. What if we looked at other options first, he said slowly. Maybe a personal trainer, I could find the best one in the city. The words hit me like a slap. A personal trainer, I repeated, my voice dangerously low. So you think the problem is that I'm not working hard enough, that I'm lazy? No, that's not what I mean at all. I just think surgery is extreme. It's dangerous. It's my body, Owen. My choice. The conversation was over. He wasn't going to get it. He ended it with the worst possible words. Let me think about it. 2 days later, on Wednesday evening, he came home with a gift-wrapped box. He had this proud, hopeful look on his face, like he'd solved a complex equation. I thought about what you said, he told me, and I found a solution. A better one. I opened the box. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, were documents. A 1-year, all-inclusive membership to one of the most exclusive gyms in Chicago. A contract for 20 personal training sessions with a celebrity trainer whose clients were all over magazine covers. A consultation with a nutritionist. I just stared at it. The papers felt like an indictment, a judgment. Are you kidding me? I whispered. It's not what you asked for, but it's healthier, Stella. It's safer, and the results will be real. They'll be yours. The box flew out of my hands and hit him in the chest. You think I'm fat, I hissed, tears of pure rage blurring my vision. That's not what this is about. You just handed me a gym membership instead of supporting my decision about my own body. How is that not calling me fat? I told you what I needed, and you decided you knew better. You decided to fix me. The fight was ugly. It ended with me screaming and him retreating into a wounded silence. That night, I knew something had to change. If the man sleeping next to me wouldn't invest in my happiness, I would find someone who would. My friends were all on my side. They said Owen was controlling, that it was a classic case of financial abuse, withholding funds to manipulate my choices. Their validation felt like a warm blanket. It emboldened me. That weekend, I created a profile on a website. It wasn't a sordid transactional site. It was sophisticated. Seeking Ascent, it was called. It connected ambitious, beautiful young people with established, successful mentors. My profile was a work of art. I wrote about my passion for contemporary art, my desire to grow, and my search for a generous patron who understood that sometimes personal development required a significant capital investment. The responses were overwhelming, but one stood out. His name was Victor Sterling. His profile picture showed a man in his late 50s with sharp silver hair, a tailored suit, and eyes that held a lifetime of confidence. He was a real estate magnate. His first message wasn't crude. It was intelligent. He asked about the kind of art I curated, about my long-term goals. We met for drinks at a rooftop bar overlooking Millennium Park. He was even more impressive in person. He listened, truly listened, as I told him about my dream, about the surgery, about Owen's lack of vision. He didn't offer platitudes. He nodded slowly, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. A woman with your ambition shouldn't be held back by small-minded men, he said, his voice a low, smooth baritone. Confidence is the ultimate currency, Stella. If this procedure will give you that, then it's not an expense. It's the most important investment you could ever make. Finally, someone who got it. He asked about the cost. When I told him, he didn't blink. Consider it done, he said, placing his hand over mine on the cool marble of the bar. A gift, to celebrate a woman who knows what she wants. Our relationship escalated quickly. He wasn't just a benefactor. He was a connoisseur of the finer things in life, and he wanted to share them with me. We had dinners at Alinea, weekends in New York, private viewings at art galleries he funded. He bought me a Cartier watch just because. I was living a double life. With Owen, our apartment felt small, the conversations mundane. He started noticing the change in me. The new clothes, my distractedness. He'd ask where I'd been, and the lies came so easily. A donor dinner. A networking event. He knew something was wrong. I could feel his suspicion, a quiet, heavy thing in the air between us. He tried to bridge the gap, cooking my favorite pasta, suggesting we go to the lake. But I saw his efforts as pathetic attempts to drag me back down to his level. The breaking point came when he found a receipt in my coat pocket for a $500 dinner I'd had with Victor. He confronted me, but not with anger. It was worse. It was with hurt. Stella, who did you go to Gibson's with? I turned on him, my voice dripping with indignation. Are you going through my things now? Is that what this is? You can't support my dreams, so you're going to try to control my life. The fight was the worst we'd ever had. It ended with me sleeping in the guest room, And as I lay there, a cold, brilliant, terrible idea took root in my mind. I was done hiding. I was done living two lives. It was time for Owen to see the truth. It was time to show him what he was losing. 2 nights later, I told Victor my plan. I wanted him to come home with me. I wanted him to meet Owen. He arched a silver eyebrow, a slow smile spreading across his face. He loved the drama of it. A final curtain call, he mused. I'd be delighted. When we walked into the apartment, Owen was standing in the kitchen. He'd ordered takeout from our favorite Thai place. A peace offering. His face, which had been tight with worry, softened when he saw me. Then his eyes flickered to the man standing behind me. Victor Sterling, in his immaculate Zegna suit holding a bottle of wine that probably cost more than our rent. Owen's face went blank. The color drained from it. He looked from me to Victor, his mind struggling to process the scene. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I stepped forward into the space between them, and I let the silence hang for a moment before I shattered it. Owen, I said, my voice as clear and cold as ice. This is Victor. I paused, letting him absorb the name, the presence. I wanted you to meet him. I wanted you to see what a truly supportive man looks like. The words landed in the silent room with the force of a physical blow. I saw it hit him, a flicker of disbelief, then a wave of pure, unadulterated pain in his eyes. I had expected him to yell, to throw something, to call me names. I was ready for a fight. But he did none of those things. He just looked at me. It felt like he was looking straight through me, seeing every ugly, selfish part of me I kept hidden. The air crackled. Victor stood there, a smug spectator, at a tragedy he'd helped orchestrate. Owen's gaze never left my face. His expression was terrifyingly calm. After what felt like an eternity, he nodded just once, a small final movement. I see, he said. His voice was hollow, empty. Then he turned, walked into our bedroom, and shut the door. Not a slam, just a quiet, definite click. The sound of an ending. I stood there, my heart hammering. I felt cheated. This wasn't the explosive victory I had imagined. The silence from behind that door was an accusation, a punishment far worse than any screaming match. Victor placed a hand on the small of my back. Come, my dear, he murmured. You don't belong here anymore. I let him lead me out of the apartment, away from the life I was so eager to destroy. As we left, I glanced back at the closed bedroom door. It was just a plain white door, but it felt like a tombstone. The surgery was everything I had dreamed of. I woke up in a luxurious recovery suite in Miami, Victor by my side. The pain was intense, but when the nurses helped me stand in front of the mirror for the first time, even through the swelling and bandages, I saw it. The silhouette, the impossible curves. I had won. I moved into Victor's penthouse, overlooking Lake Michigan. My life became a fantasy. He hired a private nurse for my recovery. He filled a walk-in closet with new clothes, all in a size that would fit my new body. I was his living work of art, and he was my devoted patron. But the gilded cage began to feel smaller and smaller. My time was not my own. My presence was required at his dinners, his charity events, his weekend trips. I was to be beautiful, charming, and endlessly grateful. My friends stopped calling. My posts on social media, once filled with genuine interaction, were now just a performance attracting hollow compliments from strangers. I was more visible than ever, and more alone than I had ever been. The dream shattered on a Tuesday afternoon about 3 months after my surgery. I was lounging by the indoor pool in Victor's building, finally confident enough to wear a bikini when a woman appeared. She was in her early 60s, impeccably dressed in a Chanel suit with an aura of cold old money authority. So she said, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the pool filters, "You must be the little project my husband has been funding with our retirement savings." Victor, who had been on a business call nearby, went pale. "Catherine," he stammered. "I can explain." Explain what she shot back, her eyes never leaving me. "Explain how you've been liquidating assets behind my back to pay for this child's cosmetic surgery." She looked me up and down with utter contempt. I wrapped a towel around myself, my perfect body suddenly feeling cheap and exposed. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I'm his wife of 35 years, Catherine said, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "The woman whose family money you've been living on. The woman whose credit cards paid for your new ass." The next hour was a blur of revelations. Victor wasn't a self-made magnate. He was a fraud, living off a trust fund, controlled entirely by his wife's family. This wasn't his first indiscretion, just his most expensive. Catherine had hired a private investigator weeks ago. She had everything: photos, bank statements, copies of our text messages. "You think you're special," she laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "He does this every few years when he gets bored. Finds some naive little thing, and plays the great benefactor until I have to cut off his allowance." Victor was groveling. The sophisticated, powerful man I knew had vanished, replaced by a pathetic, pleading husband. He was blaming me, claiming I had seduced him, manipulated him. Catherine waved her phone in my face. "I'm keeping all of this. Evidence for the divorce lawyers. And as for you, dear," she said, her eyes locking with mine, "I'm going to make sure everyone in this city knows exactly what kind of woman you are." I fled. There was nowhere to go, except back to my parents' house in the suburbs, a 2-hour drive from the life I had so carefully constructed and so spectacularly lost. Catherine Sterling was a woman of her word. Within days, my world imploded. She leaked everything. Screenshots of my Seeking Assent profile, our private messages, photos of Victor and me, all captioned with sordid details. The story spread like a virus through my social circles. I was no longer Stella, the ambitious art curator. I was a gold-digging homewrecker. My job at the gallery called and politely informed me my position had been eliminated. My friends sent texts filled with disappointment before blocking my number. I was a pariah. Living with my parents at 28 was a special kind of hell. The humiliation was a constant physical weight. After a few weeks of wallowing, I did the only thing I could think of. I tried to call Owen. His number was disconnected. I messaged him on social media. No response. He had vanished from my life as completely as if he had never existed. About 8 months after the explosion, I saw a photo of him. It was posted by a mutual acquaintance. He was at a table in a rustic-looking restaurant, laughing with a woman I'd never seen before. She wasn't a bombshell. She was natural. Pretty, with kind eyes and a genuine, unforced smile. She looked comfortable in her own skin. The caption was simple: good food, good company, good life. And Owen? He looked happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. There was a lightness to him I hadn't seen in years. A peace. The comments were full of friends saying how wonderful it was to see him smiling like that, how he deserved it, how nice it was to see him with someone who truly appreciated him. I closed the app and stared at my own reflection in the dark screen of my phone. I saw the perfect curves I had sacrificed everything for. The hourglass figure of an influencer. My body was a masterpiece of modern surgery. It was exactly what I thought I wanted. But lying there in my childhood bedroom, unemployed and alone, I finally understood what Owen had been trying to tell me all along. The problem was never my body. The problem was the gaping, cavernous hole inside me that I thought changing my body would fill. And yet, even as that clarity washed over me, a bitter, defiant thought pushed its way through. I looked incredible. The surgery had been worth it. None of this would have happened if Owen had just said yes. If he had just written the check. If he'd been the kind of man who invested in my happiness instead of questioning it, we'd still be in that condo. I would have my new body, and I would still have him. The drama with Victor, the humiliation, it was all his fault, really. Some men just can't handle a woman who knows her worth. He was too weak to fight for a woman like me. He just wasn't strong enough.